Let's talk more about the state of our municipalities, because all day today in Newzroom Afrika here, we've been focusing today on just how various councils across the country are doing. Just to update you on some of the other numbers from the Auditor-General's report, 33 of this country's municipalities are currently under administration because they're dysfunctional at a service delivery level, or they've simply lost control of their finances. Let's talk about all of this with researcher at Good Governance Africa, Stuart Mbanyele. Stuart, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time and patience today. So the Auditor-General has flagged pretty much the same problems that were flagged by two of her predecessors, Terence Nombembe as well as the late Kimi Magwetu. Why should we believe that this latest warning from the incumbent will actually change the way in which we run municipalities?
Good day, Tamil. Yeah, absolutely. I think local government has been in a perpetual and perennial state of decline. As the picture that is painted by the outcomes of the Auditor-General report, the situation is not getting any better. I mean, we're only less than a year from our last local government elections, where the dynamics sort of shifted within a political leadership level in many municipalities, particularly the metros. But then only one metropolitan municipality managed to get a clean audit outcome, which speaks to the perpetual crisis and decline that is there in that space, and largely has to do with levels of accountability as well as the political and administrative interface, which is sort of a barrier towards accountability and effective governance in that space.
And often, and I mean, this is a conversation that comes up every time when these reports are released, that a clean audit does not necessarily mean that a council is delivering the best services to all citizens. Neither does a poor audit mean that a municipality is failing to deliver on the day-to-day. Let's explain why these audits are such important reviews of the functioning of a municipality and its health.
I mean, absolutely. A clean audit doesn't necessarily translate into good governance and effective service delivery in an inclusive kind of fashion. I'll give you an example. The city of Cape Town, which much to its credit got a clean audit, is often flagged and given flag for ultimately not effectively allocating resources, and they are disproportionately skewed towards the particular subsection of society. But then the audit outcomes give us a mirror into sort of a window into the functioning of a municipality. I mean, it shows that sometimes municipalities are performing good, but in some instances they show that decline in the state of affairs. I'll give you an example. When a municipality fails to sort of submit financial statements and stuff like that, sometimes it sort of has an impact on investor confidence and a whole mark of other issues that effectively point to decline in that space. So it's quite a good window into how services get delivered to citizens, as well as the accountability on the part of financial management or mismanagement thereof.
The Auditor-General, speaking to Colim Gambi earlier today on Newsfeed AM around 9 o'clock, was saying that there is still that issue of lack of consequence management, the employment of incompetent people. Is that solely down to patronage within political circles, rewarding certain comrades for whatever they may have done in a particular region, a particular party, mainly in the African National Congress, because it runs the highest number of councils?
I mean, to a great extent, yes, that's the issue. But then political sort of machinations aren't just an issue that is within ANC-led councils. Increasingly, we've seen these dynamics at play in specific coalitions. I mean, I'll give an example of the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan Municipality, which previously was run by a DA-UDM-led coalition, where there was just so much political wrangling and maneuvering that resulted in the shape-shifting of mayors. And similarly, within the city of Joburg as well, which saw the removal of Mayor Herman Mashaba, and as well as the instability that has dogged the council then since basically you've had a change in mayors, about 5 or 6 mayors in the past 3 to 4 years. Sometimes the circumstances are entered, but sometimes it's due to sort of unforeseen circumstances. But then increasingly you've got these machinations over ideology as well, which come into play, especially in coalition-run councils, whereas historically the corruption and malfeasance was largely a feature which was pervasive within ANC-led councils. But now we've increasingly seen the turn towards coalition-led governments, which was meant to be sort of a way to sort of bring more checks and balances.
And just on that, I don't know if you recall, around 2016, when large metros such as Johannesburg, when it became clear that coalitions would ultimately run the show, a lot of people were saying, well, what we're seeing is a weakening of an ANC that has failed the citizens of Johannesburg and other cities such as Tshwane, right? And that these coalitions are going to lead to better governance, better delivery of services. Why do you think they've not been able to live up to the hype?
I think it's a question of ideology and a question of who gets what in as far as the negotiations over positions. I'll give you an example. In the Nelson Mandela Metro, you've got an impasse in the appointment of a municipal manager who was previously the municipal manager in an ANC-led municipality in the Western Cape, interestingly, but then now he was rubber stamped to be the MM in the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality. This despite having had a checkered history of allegations of corruption, whereas now it's in the coalition setup, but now this guy gets to be appointed into such a position. So it speaks to these shifting political landscapes, but also a question of access to position and resources and sort of a culture that's creeping into coalition partners that sort of erodes the level of accountability in the long term. So we're hoping for better, but then as the findings point, I mean, 8 months or so after elections, that no, we're hoping that coalitions run things better, but then these sort of political machinations play out even in those spaces.
So, as I was saying at the top of our conversation, only 16% of the 257 municipalities in this country managed to get a clean audit. 33 of our municipalities are under administration. Is this problem being treated as the crisis that it is?
I mean, ultimately, local government is the closest to the people. I mean, as mechanisms, the professionalization of public service has been spoken about, where you need to appoint competent people in, especially administrative positions. And the Auditor-General has pointed out the issue of relying on consultants to do financial statements. So there's a need for capacity building in that space. But essentially, we've seen a move to sort of strengthen the Auditor-General's powers as far as effective consequence management is concerned. We've seen in the Northwest municipality where top management, particularly the municipal manager, was sort of personally held liable for the ongoing sort of shenanigans in